Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Katicus and today I'm going to be doing a re-review of the MPC Live, something that I reviewed quite a while ago, and I believe that since I reviewed it the first time, a lot has changed on the device. So those are some of the features that I'd like to go over today in my review. But this will be a complete re-review, so I will be reviewing an outside perspective of the device and the inputs and outputs and build quality and stuff like that. And then I will get into the third part of the review, which will be a breakdown of the new features and a demonstration of how to build a song. So you'll actually be able to get a small tutorial about how to build a song from start to finish on here, because I feel that's the best way to display what the MPC Live is really good at. In 2019, the question is, especially with the release of the Akai Force, is the MPC Live still a good contender as a Groovebox standalone DAW in a box that you can use out on the go and stuff because it has a battery and stuff? And my answer to that question is definitely. It is still a wonderful device. In fact, it's definitely gotten better with these updates, with these releases that Akai has put out, because they've addressed some very significant issues with the synthesizer, as well as added features that were just like, even without the features, it was a really good device. But with these new, like the VSTs and the actual effects, instead of just like Akai effects, they put in air effects. The difference is night and day. It is something that it is so much better than it used to be, and it was already a pretty good device before. So without further ado, let me get into the review by starting with an outside like video of the outside of the device. Okay, I'll see you guys in a second. One moment. Okay, so here we are on the outside of the device. There you can see there's a 16 pad layout for thumbing in beats and also playing for playing synthesis tracks and stuff like that, like playing chords or anything like that. These are pressure sensitive, up to 16 levels of velocity, I believe, so you can press them a little bit and heavier, and you can see the pad lights up according to how much pressure I put on there. On the top here, there is a note repeat, and that let me just go back to the main here. If I press and hold on that, it'll show you the division that it's recording to, so it'll automatically put the beat or the sample that you play into like the closest quantization according to the 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, 32, and 64th, and then you can put it into thirds over here. So that's what that button does down here. And if you hold shift on here, it will actually latch it so that now it's lit up, and now you just see that division bar down on the bottom, and you can choose your division, which is actually really good for playing like hi-hat, like, and then you click it on there. So yeah, very useful. Here you have full level, and if you hold shift, it'll be half level. So that means instead of being pressure sensitive, like velocity sensitive here, I can press that and it'll always be maximum velocity, which is very good if you are trying to record a song with like quiet samples or quiet, like you're doing through MIDI onto a synthesizer, and the patch that you're using is quiet. Then you press this button right here and it would be full, or hold shift and press it and it'd be half velocity. Here you have 16 level. It's another velocity thing, and I haven't used it so much, so forgive me. I don't remember exactly at this point what it does without actually using it on there. Oh, okay, 16 level, I remember now. If you press something on the pad, like a specific sample, let's say it's a piano sample, and then you press 16 level, you can choose a few different things that it does in here. Velocity, tune or note, filter, layer, attack, and decay. And depending on what you choose, let's say I choose tune right here, and then I close it, instead of just being dun 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 dun, I can dun 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 dun. So I can play notes on it. If it was filter, then it'd depend on how hard I hit it, and there'd be different amounts of filter from here to here. So basically it brings that one sample that's assigned to that one pad across all the pads, and then you can adjust it, or like, play different notes or different filter velocities depending on where on the pads that you hit. And then you just hit it again to exit that mode, and then it'll go back to just being one sample per pad. Over here you have your erase button. It's the erase button. It erases stuff. Up here you have your bank selects, and you can select like this bank, this bank, this bank, and this bank, up to 64 different, like 16 banks with 16 patterns. So I don't remember if that's 64. Yeah, that's 128. One way that comes in really handy is, say for example you choose a piano sound and you press it here. It's on this bank, and you press it. It'll be super duper low, and might not even know if it's playing or not. But then you push up here, and it's actually like higher octaves, and you'll start to hear it. And then you can double tap it, and it will now be even higher and higher and higher and higher. So to go back to the first one, you just double tap it. Very convenient. Over here you have a Q-Link button, and that button will let you select through different things that the Q-Link knobs, these ones are called Q-Link knobs, will adjust. So right now if I turn this thing, it is adjusting nothing. Turn this one, it's adjusting where in the bars it is. This one is turning on the metronome, and this one is doing nothing. Very important, because this one does nothing in that one. Yeah. Over here for buttons, you've got your shift button, which brings up secondary functionality, which you can see written below here, and below some of the other buttons. You've got your tap button for tap for tempo. I've actually literally never used it. I always just set the tempo right here. Just do that and turn this and set the tempo. But you could do that if you wanted to. See? Sets it up there, 98.68. You've got your record button, which is important for recording songs. You've got your overdub button so that you don't record over what you've done, but you actually add to it. Your stop button, your play button, and your play start button. The play start button is very important if you're trying to record a new sequence. You don't want it to like play from where it stopped. You want to start again, so you'd hit the record button, and then you'd hit the play start, and it would count you in, and then you'd start recording. And then once it finishes that, like the set of bars, it will automatically switch over to overdub so that you can continue to do other stuff on there. So again, another matter of convenience, quite convenient. You've got your main button, which brings you to this screen right here. Your menu button, which brings you to this screen right here with lots of different settings and options. We'll get into that into the second part of the review. Your copy button, which will bring up different functions depending on what screen you're in. I skipped right over the undo button. The undo button is probably my best friend on this, because I'm often like, I quickly record something on here while it's playing through and I don't like what I've done, or I've made a mistake. I just hit stop and then undo once, and I can record and play start and go again right away. So it's very convenient because it's like very intuitive, and it allows you to quickly redo something instead of having to like go through menu options in order to get back to the recording spot, stuff like that. So yeah, important. And then you've got plus and minus buttons, and they will move you up and down or like add and subtract depending on what screen you're in. Same thing as this thing right here, actually. This is your large Q-Link knob, and I love this knob because if I, for example, click on here, click on BPM, I can adjust the BPM, but I can also click it in and have extra features here, or I can click it again to do it, so it like selects what I've done. So if I click on that and I do 5, that's 41.55, and then hit enter, like just click that button in, it will, click OK. This comes in handy in a lot of screens where you don't actually use the touch screen. Then I should mention that the touch screen is capacitive. That means there's a glass front on it, so it's not that like traditional plastic kind where you have to apply pressure, and those ones were generally less accurate. This one doesn't require any pressure. It's just the lightest touch will do. I'm looking at it through the phone screen, so. But yeah, the lightest touch will allow you to select things, and it's very responsive. Yeah. Okay, let's go around to the back here and check out the inputs and outputs. So here we have our 4 MIDI jacks, 2 MIDI in and 2 MIDI in, 2 MIDI out. You've got 2 USB ports right here, and you can plug in like a MIDI hard drive or a MIDI controller, not MIDI hard drive, a USB hard drive or a MIDI controller that uses USB. This USB right here is for connecting to the computer. for firmware updates, or to use this as a controller for the MPC software on the computer, which of course I believe comes free with the Live. You've got a lock device here, the power button and the power jack. You've got these two right here are inputs, left and right inputs, stereo jacks. You've got a phono inputs. I've never actually used these before, but you can if you want. I always use these ones right here. You've got a record volume adjustment right here, which is really nice if you kind of want to set up the volume for all of your external MIDI, like external hardware and stuff like that. That's going into here. And you don't want to have to constantly adjust the volume of that. You can actually just turn this to adjust the volume, and depending on what you're recording at the time, this will just affect that recording at that one time. So it's quite convenient to be able to adjust the recording volume right on there. You've got your line, which is this, and then your phono, which is this. So you can select between the two. Again, I've never used these, so it's always set on line. You've got a bunch of outputs here. There's the two master left and right outputs, and then you've got four outputs that can be set to different tracks or whatnot. I've never ever used those four right there, but for somebody who likes to have all their sounds separated, perhaps going to different speakers or into different spots on a mixer, it can be quite convenient. Again, I've never used it, but I just use these two right here, but I guess it's good to have. You've got your headphone jack. I've heard somebody complain that it doesn't have the large headphone jack. It's got the small one. Personally, I don't really care. I mean, I always have adapters for my headphones to be able to plug into whatever. So yeah, you got your headphone jack right there. And then your master volume output right here, and that of course adjusts the volume. You've got an SD card slot right here. It's a large SD card slot, but of course an adapter with a small TF card will also work in there. Like a micro SD card will also work in there. On the bottom down here, there is a door that you can screw in a hard drive or SSD. I would definitely not suggest putting in a hard drive. Put an SSD in there. And that's what I did. I have an SSD in there. Just as a little side note, if you do get yourself an MPC Live, I highly recommend putting some kind of storage on there. And then if you are to save anything to the device, let's say I want to save this project and I click Save As. There's two locations listed here. If I plug the USB thumb drive in there, it'd be like a third one would show up there. And this is choosing where you want to save to. I recommend never ever saving to the internal on here because it is only 16 gigabytes, which sounds like a lot, but it's not, because there's already a lot of samples that the system is taking up, and the system itself is taking up its own space. So you actually are rather limited in space. And just kind of like a cell phone, if you fill up the entire internal drive, it can actually cause like unwanted behavior in the system. I don't know if this is something that Akai has addressed. I do remember hearing complaints from people before about how the device started acting weird and restarting and stuff like that if they filled up the internal drive. So I would say, just as a very good way to do things, I recommend not recording to the internal drive. Always select whatever external drive you have. Set yourself up a folder to save into. You can see I've got my projects folder right here, projects 1, 2, and 3, and always save to that. Or if you have a thumb drive, it's very easy if somebody comes over to your place and because they want to use your stuff to record something, then they can bring their thumb drive and you can plug it in there and you can save it directly onto there. It's very convenient. This is actually something I've done a lot because a lot of my friends like to come over to use the microphone and stuff like that. And I just save the file right to their device instead of having to put it on mine and transfer it or whatever. So yeah. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up the outside of the device. I could say about the build quality. It's very well built. It is plastic, which is different from a lot of my gear is metal, but it's actually like a nice soft touch plastic, and it is really stable. I haven't shown you that on the side there are vents for venting for heating, like heat dispersion, although I've never actually felt the MPC Live get hot, but it's there. Another thing I should mention is that yes, this thing does have a battery. If we go back to the main screen right here and I click on the little battery icon, it shows you how much, what percent I have left, 93%, and it shows you how much CPU and memory and drives. I only have one drive plugged in, and it is almost, it's two drives actually. It's showing the internal storage, which is the red bar, sorry it's not showing up very well, and the external storage, which is almost not even full at all, so I've got a long way to go to fill that up. So yeah, that's pretty much it for it. The pads feel really great. They are definitely like dust magnets, so you might want to dust the thing or wipe it off with like a damp but not wet towel. You don't want water going in there. Aside from that, the thing feels really great. It's solid. It's not too heavy, but it's definitely solid. I don't feel worried about like little bumps and stuff like that, or if I like forget that it's in my backpack and I throw my backpack on the floor, I'm not worried that it's going to damage it. It's very well made. Even though it's plastic, it's extremely thick plastic, and it is very well made. The touchscreen is very responsive, and everything feels great. The funny thing is, when I first did the review for this, there was a couple things that I wasn't quite sure of. Then I started to learn how to use it better. I also made a video called MPC Live Disappointing Audio something or whatever about like recording the audio tracks and being unable to mute them per sequence. And at that time, I kind of ragged on the system, but it's grown on me so much, and I've learned how to actually properly use it. So the only reason I've left that video up is because I feel like I should learn from my mistakes and not try to hide them, so I left it there. But in actual retrospect, this machine is absolutely fantastic. I love using it. It is the heart of all of my hardware. I use it for MIDI controlling and all the recording and everything. It's a wonderful device. Okay, enough talking. Let's get to the part of the review where I show you how to build a song and what I like about it and some additional features that Akai has added in the last year and a half. Okay, see you guys in a second. Okay, welcome back to part 3. In this part of the review, I'm going to show you how to build a track, as well as talk about some things that have been added to the MPC Live since the later updates. In fact, I'm going to go over those things first because I don't want to forget and because I think they're very notable. The first thing that I'm going to go over is, let me just go to a new file here. New, okay. It's going to go back to the first screen on there. So I go to empty here, and the first thing I'm going to show you is the built-in VSTs, of which the MPC Live has 3 built-in VSTs, and they are pretty wicked. So the first one is, that's MIDI right here. There's the, okay. The first one is the bass line, so I'll select that there, and now it's on default preset, which is ever the first one. So if I press stuff, you can see that it's very, very low. We can't actually hear much other than a growl, but if I go higher up, yeah, so that's a bit higher, and I can go even higher than that. Kind of cool. You can actually get some melodics out of it, not just bass lines. The next I guess I should go into the presets a little bit here to show you what there are. These are previews, and there's all sorts of different names of patches. I can go to let's go to basic. It's got a little bit of a delay on there. Org. Yeah. And there are just so many. I'm using the Q-Link knob right here. If I select this and turn it down, it will allow me to select one of the other ones. But staying on baseline here, I can just go one by one through all of the different kinds. I'm not sure if this is showing up in the video, due to the contrast. I hope it is. Drive. There are a lot of different built-in ones, a lot of different built-in patches, and you can also build your own patches, which is very cool. If I go from here, I've got this selected, into the menu here, and then I go to Program Edit, it will give me control over that plugin. So I can select, for example, the shape. Yeah, and there are a whole bunch of different settings that you can select just on this one screen. If I can just get that to focus. Yeah, just on this one screen, there are many things to select. And then there are other screens like the velocity and master and chorus. You've got more options right here. Then you've got delay effect and compressor and hype. I'm not sure what hype does. Probably just adds more more grit or more I don't know, more stuff. It adds more stuff to it, makes it thicker or whatever. Okay, so let's go back into our main by clicking main right here and go to the next plugin that is the electric piano. I think this is a very sweet sounding electric piano. And there's no sound. That's wonderful. Sorry for banging around the camera. Not a very solid surface underneath here, so it's going to bang every time I hammer on the pads. I'll just turn it on to full level. Yeah, very cool. And then there are all sorts of different presets for it. So I can go to ePiano 1, 2, case, very neat. Loud tines. Pianette. Cool. And then again, I can go to the menu over here by clicking on that button, going to Program Edit up here, and it gives me a whole bunch of different things to change and modify. So let's quickly record 2 bars of this. So I'm going to click on, let's make sure my metronome is on. So I'm going to record this, just a couple chords. Literally a couple chords. And then I can go back to the menu right here and Program Edit, and while it is playing, I can adjust it. I think. It doesn't sound like I'm changing it, but apparently I am. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Let's see here. There we go. Oh, so pretty. There's some different effects right here that I can add. Actually, when I first went in there and started adjusting things and you weren't hearing any change, it's because I hadn't turned it on. So turn it off there. It doesn't actually change anything until I turn it on. Very nice. Go to my spring reverb down here. Let's turn the spring reverb up a bit. Very pretty. Okay. Now, even from here, now that I've just put those chords in there and it's playing as the electric piano, I can actually change any of the patches, or I can even change the plugin itself, and it won't erase what I've done for the chord notes because the chords are recorded in the track view, so it doesn't really matter what I do. I could put any samples in there or any of the VSTs that are in here. So let's change it while it's playing. Of course, this is really nice if you you're building a song and you want to add something more to it, like an extra melodic like something else in there. And I'm sorry, my brain's just not coming up with the proper terms for things. But if you want to add like another element or another track in there with that goes in the mids or like has a high pitched sound or whatever, you want to add some new element to the song. First, you can write the chords, and then you can go through a whole bunch of different patches and modify your own patches or whatever, and basically find that which is perfect for you while it's playing. So you can hear the hard whirly. Oh, that's so pretty. But you can also change the plugin itself. I can go down to Tube Synth and then play. You can hear like there's only 3 VSTs, but they're actually very versatile. They're very flexible. There's a lot you can do with each of them. And they, being a bass line generator and an electronic piano, and then the tube synth itself, it has an enormous range of what it can do. If I go to the menu here, go to Program Edit again, go up to the main screen, you can see your oscillator 1, oscillator 2, and sub oscillator right here. I can change it while it's playing. Noise. Change the octave. LFO. Synchronize them. Or desync them. Then you have a whole bunch of different options down here. You've got your mixer filter, your envelope. Let's just change the filter cutoff a little bit here. Right now I'm using this knob. You can't see very well because it's tuned out of it, but like the camera is. I'm using this knob right here to do like a filter sweep while it's playing. Like I can use this one, of course, because I've selected it, but this one's granular, so it goes click, 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 and this one is not. So this one, yeah. And then in this screen on the bottom here, there are all sorts of different effects that you can add that are built into the tube synth itself. However, that doesn't mean you're limited to using those effects. So let's turn the filter back up again. Let's go back to the main here, and let's look at how to put effects. This is the second thing that, like the huge addition that Akai, let me just stop this, the huge addition that Akai put onto the MPC Live, and that is effects by air. So before, if I scroll down here, before we were limited to these effects down here. They're unnamed, generic, they're their effects, and they're decent if you don't have an effects pedal or whatever, and I've used them in a couple of my tracks, but they're not something that I would fall back onto. In fact, I ended up getting an effects pedal because the effects on here were they're not terrible, but they're very, I don't know, they lack personality. That same cannot be said for the air effects. They are definitely a big step up in the game. So let's go to, let's use which one? Let's use the reverb. Sure, who doesn't like a good reverb? That's actually my favorite effect. As you can see here, when I go into the effects screen, I can have up to 4 different effects at the same time. That's very cool. So if I want to hide this screen, I just click on hide. If I want to open it, I just click on open it. This is important if you're making tracks and you want to add effects. Okay, so let's see what it sounds like. This is the default reverb, so I haven't made any adjustments to it. Not bad. I can, of course, adjust it. Going in here. So a lot can be done using those effects. And of course, that's just one effect. I could go back into here and I could, let's just turn that one off so we can hear the next effect. Let's try the air delay. Okay, not bad. Let's change the time division. Yeah, so you have all sorts of settings there that you can go into. From this screen, there are just so many different effects that you can choose from and adjust. You can go to the air compressor right here. I find this is really good for voice tracks. If I were to record something in through voice, a lot of times it comes in quiet or whatever. Once I turn on the compressor and adjust it, it just makes the sound sound so much better. It's actually, using a compressor is something I didn't even know about for the longest time, and I'm asking people in all these like music groups, like We Are the Music Makers, and you know, areas like that, like, you know, how do you make your microphone recordings sound better? And they're like, are you using a compressor at all? I'm like, what's that? Yeah, it's a night and day difference. Then we can go into the options of the compressor right here, and you can see the kind of options that you have available. And if I play it, hopefully it won't blow our ears out. Well, of course it had to blow our ears out. Apologies for that. Okay, it's a little bit high. Let's turn that down a bit. Yeah, so it gives you a display of how the sound is coming in and going out, and then you've got some different options that you can select over here. So yeah, the two biggest features that were added in the latest update, or I should say updates because they're still updating it, were the VSTs and the effects, the air effects. Now, other things have been added, and there are things that more professional users will probably like criticize me for not mentioning in here. Yeah, but you forgot about the blah, blah, blah automation or whatever. The fact is, I can only tell you how I use the device, and those are the things that made the biggest difference to my music creation process. So the next thing I'm going to go over here is exactly how do you make a track on here. So first things first, you want to like choose your BPM. We've got it 120. That's a bit high for me, so I'm going to change it to 100. Then you want to choose your sequence length. That's how many bars it's going to be. 2 is a pretty short song. So I'm going to turn that up to 8. I like to do things in 8 bars. Of course, you can do it in 4 bars at a time if you want to add more changes in the middle of, you know, bars and stuff like that. Then if I play it, suddenly there's nothing because it's now 8 bars and I haven't recorded anything for that. But I'm going to go through the process very quickly here about how to make a very quick song, and then it's basically the foundation that you'll need to know in order to make a full like 3-minute or 5-minute song, and something that you're proud of, and you can build on your knowledge after that. So track 1, we're going to delete it. Let me just go here. Track 1. Clear. Okay, so now nothing plays and nothing's selected. Here we've got pattern select, then we've got plugin, then we've got keys, which if you have one sample chosen, then when you press on here, it'll be different notes. Here is clip mode, and I've literally never used it. There are other videos on YouTube about how to use clip mode, but I've never used it and whatever. You've also got CV right here to do like CV messages, but I don't know how it would be done on here because there's no CV in and outs. I don't know. It's something, again, that I don't understand, but others would. And then lastly, you've got your MIDI selection. So how do you get started? How do you get started with a track? Well, what's the first thing you want to start with? Let's just say that it's a drum beat, okay? We've got the pattern select here, or like, you know, pads selection right here. And right now, nothing happens when I press on anything. So what I need to do is I need to assign samples in order for the pads to know what to do. So basically you're assigning samples to the pads. So I'll go into assign samples, a bunch of nothing here. Click on browse down here at the bottom. And then right now it's selected to drums. There are also instruments, clips, samples, my files, and splice. And I've never used splice. That's a new feature. So in here, if I were to click on any of these, so it's playing a sample, like it's playing a few bars using the sounds or the samples from that kit. That doesn't mean that you're loading that one drum beat into there. You're just loading that kit. And then it has, like, you can hear what's in the kit. I like that one. You see me hammering on the stop button when it's playing anything, like, for example, if you have a sample that's like 15 seconds long and you're playing your sequences and then you press stop, it's going to keep playing whatever samples that like have triggered at the beginning of the sequence, and they're going to keep playing until they're done, even though the actual sequence has stopped. So if you hammer on the stop button, it's actually just stop. It'll stop everything instead of letting those things continue to play. Good to know. Let's go back to our main right here with that button. And on sequence 1, track 1, I've now got an empty program. It's program 1. I can click on this right here, and I can choose that pattern or like that kit that I had just done. So if I, from here, let me just move this over a bit. From here, if I click on any of these, some of these are long, just hit stop twice and they stop. Okay, so I can do the beat. I can record it like that if I want to, or this is a pro tip that I like to use. I like to turn on the note repeat and latch it. So for example, if you're recording a hi-hat, you don't want to have to try to hit every single one on time and then maybe see it's a little bit out of like time and you have to redo it. It can be quite frustrating. So what I like to do is turn on, I hold shift, press note repeat, then right here it tells me my time division. Okay, so I'm going to put the mic down for 1 second so that I can show you how I put some kind of like flans on there and make it, you'll see. Okay, so very wonderful sounding thing. That's all it is. That's all I've recorded. I actually made a mistake in there and recorded one of the 132 or like, yeah, 132 a little bit longer, but it doesn't matter. From there, we're going to put in our kick and our snare. Instead of doing it, well, let me show you. Let's turn off our note repeat and record it. Oopsies. What I just did there was I recorded over the that which I had done with the hi-hat. So press undo once and it undid that. And then I go to overdub. So simple. Another thing that you can do to record the kicks or whatever is just like I did with the hi-hat. You can turn on note repeat and then, there we go, turned it on. And then I turn it to 1/8 right here. And then I can, like, if you find you're always or constantly putting in the beat at the wrong time, of course this thing's going to automatically adjust according to the division that you've chosen. But if you find that you're like always trying to get like dung ching dung 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 ching, but it's coming out dung ching dung 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 ching, then you can actually use the note repeat on your kicks and your snares as well. Yeah, so it's just something to take into account, or keep a note that you can do that as well. I find that the shift and note repeat is a super awesome feature for not just your beats, but also for doing things over MIDI or doing like using the tube synth or whatever. Some synthesizer sound really good when they're played like one note or whatever, but they can even sound better or sound even better if they are note repeated and then do 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 do. It sounds really good, and you can do that on here without having to have really good fast timing. Of course, if you're a pad pro, then ignore what I'm saying, but for the rest of us amateur people, it's a good thing to know. Okay, so let's listen here. Not bad. Okay, it's a good start. So next we want to do a second track. So click on here. Track 2 is unused. We're going to use that one. And for this one, let's use a plugin. Okay. So here we are. Sounds kind of gnarly, right? We still got all those effects on there. We don't really want it to sound so low, so we're going to have to choose one of the banks up here to go higher into the notes. Okay, that could be a decent bass line, I guess. Let's go back to main here, and we are going to record that. So let's close this screen. You don't have to close that screen, but you can if you want to. So I'm going to go click on record. Let me just see if I have the right time division here. Oh, of course, yeah. That, if I play it back, is going to be totally out of time because I actually had 1/8 selected in my time division, which won't allow the note to change so quickly. So it will ignore all notes that I've pressed in between 1/8. So I've just turned it up to 1/16, which means it will move it closest to the 16th instead of closest to the 8th. If you listen right now, totally out of time. So I'm also going to, I don't really like this, yeah, let's use that one. Okay. I'm going to click on record here. I could click undo. Right now I've got that in there. If I click undo right now, it's going to actually go back to the, it's going to go through all of the different patches that I just went through instead of deleting or erasing what I recorded. So I'll just click on record and play start. That way it'll record over what I've done. Oops, not written. There we go. Good enough. There we've got like a, I don't know, we can call it a super basic bass line. If you want to see the notes that you've put in, you can actually check them right here. This little thing right here shows, like, allows you to go through it like that. And of course you can pinch to zoom out and zoom in like that so you can see. And depending on, like, I'm pressing the note repeat right here, and you can see divisions of time on the bottom of the screen. And if I choose to, like, 132, now that I've chosen that, if I scroll in, it's actually giving you smaller chord lengths or smaller note lengths, so you can make adjustments according to that if you'd like to. And go back to 1/16 here, just for the purposes of our review. Okay, so playing that back. Not bad. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to display what it's like to use MIDI on here, because MIDI is, for me, I'm a hardware kind of guy. I actually don't like to use a DAW, even though this could really be considered a DAW, but I don't like sitting in front of the computer and trying to do stuff. Not to mention my computer is hooked up to a 65-inch flat screen TV, which is not really conducive to having like a studio around it. So this way I can be connected to all my gear and also be able to have like the flexibility of making adjustments and recording and all that stuff. So on our next track, we'll go to track 3 and an unused track, and I'm going to select MIDI. Okay. Now, right now it's, I'm not sure which MIDI I have hooked up. Maybe it's B. Oh, okay. One thing I have to do here in order to hear it is I gotta click on audio and monitor. Okay. Then go back to MIDI, and one of these is gonna do it. Just gotta figure out which one it's plugged into. Oh dear. There we go. Okay, MIDI B channel 2. This is my Moog over here is the channel is set to 2 because I've been using it with like in my gear setup, and there's a lot of different hardware devices, so I had to look around for it. Anyway, you can hear the device. That's the patch that it is. Let's try another patch. Perhaps a little bit quiet. I can turn up the recording volume back here. Still a bit quiet. Okay, now from here, what I can do is there's 2 different ways that I could end up utilizing my my MIDI device in the track. Either A, I could record a MIDI sequence which will play the synthesizer back live. So, for example, I'll go to record here. I'm going to undo that. I got to... Okay, let's do that. Let's go a little bit louder here. Let's try that again. Okay, let's stop that there. Now, it is a bit quiet and probably not in tune, but that doesn't matter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch through different patches on the synthesizer while this is playing and see what it sounds like. Okay, so that is one way that I can do it. However, this means that I have to have my MIDI device hooked up to the machine while it's playing back my song. But if I don't want it to do that, then what I can do is I can go into my menu here. I can go to my sampler. I can enable it, and then I can hit play. Okay, now that I've finished the recording, it says new sample. I can rename it if I want to. Let's name it Moog Bass. Okay, do it. And then program 1, because it's not used, I could put it into... Uh-oh, where did it go? Oh no. Okay, there we go. I could put it into the chill trap, but I'm not going to. I'm going to put it into program 1 because it's totally not used. Whoops. Okay, so then I hit keep. Of course, I could edit it. I could edit the, like, if I don't have the record timing down perfectly, let's say it's a little bit too long and I don't want it to play into bars where it's not playing, then I can adjust the length of it through sample edit directly there. But for the case of this review, I'm not going to. So right now, track 3 is set to MIDI. I'm going to set it back up to program here, my pad mode. Now it's set to program 1, and if I go back to bank 1 over here and I... Okay, nice and growly. Of course, like before, I'm going to hit record, play start. Okay, now for the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make one more track. This would be a very small song or like a very simple song, but it doesn't matter because it really gives you the basic or like the basis for how to build a song on here. So we're going to go one more track. We're going to go to track 4, which is unused. I'm going to choose another plugin. Before I do that, one quick thing that I'd like to mention is on the MIDI section, because I find that using the Akai as a MIDI sequencer is pretty fantastic because you have 2 MIDI ins and 2 MIDI outs, and each MIDI in can have up to 16 channels. Of course, that might have lag and stuff like that once you go to 16 different synths, but it doesn't really matter. The way that I have it set up is that I've got, you know, my studio is basically with the MPC Live in the middle, and then I have a wing of synths over there and a wing of synths over there. So I've got A going this way and like this way, and B going that way. And then I just click on here, and if I can get to focus, there we go. I can select A or B. There's C, but it doesn't have those jacks. I don't know why. So A and B, and then choose the channel right here. This here program change, I'm imagining that it has something to do with like being able to send not just notes, but additional data to the other synthesizers. But if you don't want to have that kind of, I don't know, chaos, then you can have it set to off. I've never turned it on. Okay, so B out, B and channel 2, and that's the Moog actually, it's just really low. Yeah, so the MIDI is one of my favorite features of this because I can, for each track, I can write like a melodic structure in here, or just play it on here, or play it on whatever my controller is that's going into here. Record that MIDI, and I can have it going out per channel to whichever device I want. So this actually works really well as a MIDI sequencer. It's very capable as a MIDI sequencer. The funny thing is, I didn't know how to use the MIDI on here because I wasn't, like back when I reviewed this, when I first got it, I really wasn't educated or in the know about how to use MIDI in general. So there was so much I didn't know, and eventually I got to the point where I was starting like to get quite a few different synthesizers and drum machines, and I was thinking like, what can I use to control all these things? And I was actually looking at different sequencers and stuff like that while I had the MPC Live, and now that I look back on it, I think it's kind of ridiculous because the MPC Live is actually a great MIDI sequencer. Okay, enough blah blah blah. Let's get back to our song here. Track 4, we're not going to do MIDI. We're going to go to a plugin. We've got tube synth whoop chords. I think we already... Sure, let's put that in there. Let's record that, okay? Like I said, if you do the note repeat, it's really cool what you can do. Note repeat. It's set to 16ths. Let's record that in there. Okay, so not the most beautiful sounding thing, but it doesn't matter. We've now got 4 different tracks playing different things. We've got track 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I go into this view right here, I can solo this one so you can hear it. Solo this one. That's the MIDI track. Okay, and then let's turn off solo there so you can hear all of them together. Okay, so how do you make a song out of this? I mean, we've just made 4 different tracks, but they're all in sequence 1. The question is, what do we do from here? This is, in my opinion, the most easy way to do it. However, it does come with its own faults. But what we do here is we figure out the length of the song, like how long do we want to make the song, okay? And what we want to start it with and whatnot. So let's say we just want to start it with the bass line. So we're going to mute everything but the bass line, okay? Okay, everything's muted except the bass line, so I'll go back into here, and on the sequence, I click on the edit button, and I copy the sequence to sequence 2. It's going to be called sequence 1. I can change that to sequence 2, like that. I don't have to change it, but I can if I want to. Do it. Okay, main. Now we're on sequence 2. So sequence 1 sounds like this. Sequence 2 also sounds like that, but I can go into here and I can unmute the track. Okay, so from here we've now got 2 sequences. The first one just has the bass line. The second one, the beat comes in, and then we go back to the main here, and from here we copy this sequence over to sequence 3, and we're going to call that sequence 3. I actually like the fact that they put the little sequence name button down here because before you had to like create the sequence and then name it. So like it wasn't in the same screen. This is really convenient. I'm probably going to start renaming my sequences now because all of my other songs are all called sequence 1, sequence 1, sequence 1. Anyway, okay, let's do it. And go back to the main here, and we're going to go into the track view here. We're going to unmute the third part. Whoops. There we go. It's unmuted. Then we're going to go back in here, and we're going to copy the sequence again because we have 4 tracks. And we're going to call it sequence 4. Do that. Do it. Okay. Now that should have, let's go into the track view here and unmute that. That's where everything is playing. Now from here you might be thinking like 8 bars and 8 bars and 4 sequences is not the full length of a song. So from this point we could copy this one again. Let's go back to the main and copy it. This might be where your chorus is, so it's like got everything playing at the same time. Then we're going to copy it again to the next one. Do it. And in this one, we're going to go to the track view and we're going to mute, let's say this thing right here and this thing right here. Maybe let that play for a bar. Maybe in this part we want to like add another track and introduce a new sound or a new melody. But anyway, for the sake of the review, we're going to keep it short. Let's say we've got all these things done here. In total, we have 6 sequences at 8 bars. From here, we're going to go to the menu. We're going to go to the song. In song, it's empty. We're going to click on insert and insert and insert. There's 6 different inserts for each bar. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that the bars or the sequences are correct. So 1 is 1, 2 is 2. All I did right there was inserted the same sequence over and over again. So now I have to go through and set the sequences accordingly. That's 5 and that's 6. Now when I play start, from this screen, if I hit play start, it's going to play the song. Sorry for this, but I'll let it go to the next sequence and we'll get out of here. Okay, so you can see how that works. It's going to go to the sequence 3 and it's going to start playing what I have in there for like unmuted per sequence. Now, there is one fault or one problem with doing it the way that I've shown you, and that is if you use audio tracks, okay? If you use audio tracks to record something directly into the machine and then you copy that sequence into the next sequence, you cannot do what I just showed you with like muting in this sequence and leaving it unmuted in the next one. It doesn't work like that. If you mute that audio track in this sequence, it's going to mute it for all sequences. So if you want to use the audio track stuff, I highly recommend making the song accordingly and then recording the audio in each sequence after. So go to that sequence and start using up your audio. And you have 8 audio tracks in total in portable mode, and I've unlimited audio tracks if you're hooked up to a computer, but 8 in portable mode. One thing you can do if you want to get around this, the limitation for audio tracks, is you can do like I just showed you where I recorded a sequence from the Moog over there into here, and then I just selected that audio file as a pattern and played it on the pads. That's super duper easy, so you don't have to worry about the limitations of the audio tracks. But it is something to keep into note that if you use that technique of let's go back to MIDI here. If you use that technique of writing the entire song in one sequence and then copying it and then like muting and unmuting and do that again and again, if you do that with audio tracks, you will not be able to mute and unmute. You'll have to go into that audio track into that sequence with the audio track that you don't want to hear and delete it from that track or from that sequence. So it's a little bit more convoluted. But just using the device itself to write songs and stuff like that without using the audio tracks, you don't have to worry about that at all. This technique that I've shown you, this super simple way, works every time. It's super duper easy to do. One thing I will tell you is that to be careful when you are recording, let's say, like you're recording some kind of pattern or whatever into here. Once it's done recording, it's going to automatically switch into overdub. So if I like thumb in a beat or whatever, it's going to go into overdub after that, and I might not realize it, so I might press more stuff and it's going to record that in there too. The other thing is if you do that and it's playing in overdub mode and then you go to like volumes here and you want to like turn the volume down on here, like let's say you figure out that this track is too loud, so you want to turn it down, but it's in overdub, it's actually going to automate that. It's going to adjust that while it's playing, and in my experience, it's really hard to make it stop doing that once you've got that automation recorded in there. I don't know if it's something that they've changed in these updates, but it's just something I've known as I've left it in overdub and turned the volume, like, wow, the beat is too loud, I need to turn it down a bit, and then I like play it back and it changes volume, and I'm like, what is going on? Oh, okay, I recorded that automation, and then I can't undo it. It's very frustrating. Anyway, that's enough for the like tutorial part of the review, and I hope that gave you a good idea of how to like get started with making music on the MPC Live. Let's quickly go into the menu here and have a look at our different options. You've got your sample edit, so you can edit whatever sample. Right now it's selected to the chill trap clap, so it's just that one sound. I can set the length of it and make further adjustments to it if I want to. Oops, okay. Over here you've got program edit, and that will edit depending on what is loaded into it. So like, for example, like we saw in the beginning, if you go to, let's go to track 2, which is the plugin right there, and then I go to the menu, if I click on program edit, it's going to allow me to adjust the tube synth parameters. And I've got all sorts of things I can select. Here we've got list edit, and I don't actually know how this works because it's, I don't know, I've never used it. We've got browser, that's just your file browser. You can get there just by pressing hardware buttons from any screen. So here I am on the main screen. I can hold shift and hit menu. Does the same thing. It's the browse screen. You've got your places, your content, and your expansions, which are different samples and stuff like that. Also in this screen, we've got our sampler that allows you to sample. So I could hit the arm button, and as soon as it hears any sound that goes over the level right here that I've set it to, I can have it set pretty quiet or pretty high. It'll start automatically recording. Of course, if I hit it twice, it'll start recording anyway. It's just when I hit it. Let's discard that. Go away. Back onto the screen, we've got our looper. I've never actually used it, but it can be very good for people who want to make something and just loop it at a specific point. It's a looper. We've got our pad mixer to adjust the sound of each pad, channel mixer, pad mute, track mute, next sequence, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of stuff. The main screens that I use are the main screen with the different screens down here, like our track editor, which is, to be able to put in notes and stuff like that. Our sequence, our track view right here for volumes and center balance and, all that stuff. This screen right here, which I've never actually used, and our XY, which works like a pad. So if I insert an FX, I could adjust it like that and it would play some kind of effect. I could adjust, like set it to have delay or reverb or filter sweeps or anything like that. This is more for like live playing. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you is a song that I wrote entirely on the MPC Live to give you kind of a sense of how powerful it is, and also to show you how the CPU is, like how the CPU works, or how much resources are left even when it's doing all it's doing. Even with all the plugins and stuff like that. So let's go okay here. Let's go to Browse, Places, New Volume. Let's go to Projects. And Based Friends, where are you? There we are. Oh no, I didn't save the last one. I was kidding. Who cares? Okay, now it's loading this project. And when this thing saves a project, oh, I forgot to show you about one more thing. Let's go into the song mode. Let's just assume that this is the song that we just made. If you want to export it, you can export it like this, and you can choose a couple different settings, but you can also choose the file type, WAV, AIFF, and MP3, and FLAC, and OGG. Actually, OGG was recently added. But lossless and MP3, and then you can choose your bit rate and your sample rate right here, and go up to wave right here. You can choose your bit depth and sample rate, and then you just hit export, and it will save it to whatever. Like if I hit export, it'll ask me where do I want to export it to, and I can save it to there. Very simple. So you can pump out your own MP3s just like that, just super quick. Okay, this is a song that I wrote on the MPC Live. It is using only the plugins built into it and only the drum samples built into it. So this has absolutely nothing to do with any of my hardware stuff. So let's have a listen. Whoops, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, very quickly here. Where are my sequences? Weird. Okay, I'm having a little bit of issues here. Let's go here and just want to show you very quickly. This is playing, and then here's my CPU usage. Just so you know, that's like 14, 11, 18% CPU usage. So even though I'm running multiple plugins at the same time and multiple samples, it's still not using anywhere near full on my CPU usage. So if you're to write a full-on song on this thing, you don't have to worry about, am I going to have enough CPU resources built into the device to be able to use it portably without hooking it up to a computer? And definitely, yes. This thing doesn't struggle at all to play multiple different plugins and whatnot. Okay, now I'm going to play the song. Let's just start from here. really like. Okay, yeah, that's enough of a demo there. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps up my video review of this thing as well as that little tutorial. I would say that the experience of actually using the MPC Live, I was intimidated by it at first. I was like, how do I make any sound of this thing? Because I didn't know how to assign like patterns and stuff. Very quick thing to understand here, like if you've just like brand new, you just got an MPC Live and you're wondering what is sequence, track, and plugin program, how does that relate to what you've ever made before in a DAW? Basically, sequence is just, you know, that set of bars that you're working in, and you can set the bar length right there. And then the track is what you record into that one track. So what you're telling that one melody or drum sequence or whatever to be, and that's that track right here. And then the last thing on the bottom, the plugin program or whatever, like this right here, program, drum program, is whatever you assign to the pads over here. That's all it is. So it's not actually very confusing. You're really working in this and then assigning things over here. And this changes according to what you've got as the sound. That's whatever sounds you're using. That is the track information, like the notes as you play them. And this is what's going to play all of the tracks together at the same time. So you can have as many tracks as you want in a single sequence, and that sequence will play all those tracks together. Or you can mute them in the next sequence or whatever. But that's basically how to understand it. Okay, so that's my video review. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section down below, and I'll be sure to try to answer them for you. Aside from that, I hope you guys have a great day or a great night or whatever, and I'll see y'all guys next time, and thank you for watching, and this is Caticus out.